So, let's say you're a young adult. A few months ago, things were great with your family, and you trusted your mom and dad completely with your finances or your medical decisions. You signed some paperwork and shared authority with them.
But now things are different. Maybe the relationship changed. Maybe you moved out of state. Maybe you got married and want to choose someone else. Whatever the reason, you have a right to change your mind.
And if you're a parent listening to this, your young adult can revoke some things you both agreed to. And that's actually could be a good thing. It means the system is working the way it should.
And today we're talking about how to revoke a medical power of attorney or a statutory durable power of attorney, which we will call Financial POA in Texas, and what to think about before you do it. Hi, welcome to Thoughtful Planning. I'm Honey, a mom, an end-of-life doula, and a business owner.
And I'm Santiago. I'm a dad, a high school teacher, and a military veteran. And we're on a mission to make those planning decisions that you need to make easier and less scarier.
We have been walking through the foundational planning documents since episode 56, and today we're continuing that series with something important. What happens when you need to undo one of those documents?
Yeah, but before we go any further, our usual reminder, we're not attorneys, we're not doctors, we're not even financial advisors. Everything we share here is for educational purposes only. We're based in Texas, and when we talk about specific forms, we're talking about the Texas forms. Laws vary state by state, and by the time you're listening, even the Texas laws may have changed. Please do your own research about your state's laws or talk to an estate planning lawyer for guidance that is specific for your situation.
And here's our essential question for today. If you signed a medical power of attorney or a financial POA and you want to revoke it, what steps help make sure your revocation is clear and actually honored?
So keep this question in mind. We'll come back to it at the end of the episode. Hun, let's start with the basics. What does it mean to revoke a power of attorney?
Revoking means canceling it. Once it's revoked, your agent, the person you named to act on your behalf, no longer has that authority. Texas law help explains that you can revoke a power of attorney in Texas, and that capacity matters, especially for financial powers of attorney. They also explain the medical power of attorney revocation has its own rules and can be handled in a few different ways.
Okay, so this decision belongs entirely to the person who signed it, or as we learned in our last episode, the principal.
Exactly. The principal is the one who has the authority to revoke, and the most important part is making sure the people who relied on the old document know it has changed.
Okay, so let's walk through how we actually do this.
So, according to the Powers of Attorney fact sheet from texaslawhelp.org, which we'll link to the show notes, a written revocation is not always required, but it's often recommended because it creates a clear paper trail. Their fact sheet also talks about notarizing a written revocation as a best practice, especially when you are dealing with banks and businesses.
But just like the other forms, there's a guided option, isn't there?
Yes, there is. And that's the one we want to walk you through today because Texas has a free tool through eFileTexas that creates the revocation forms for you. We will link to it in the show notes. This is the same site we've been referencing since episode 58.
Okay, and does this form cover both the financial and medical POA?
Yes, you can revoke one or both in the same session.
Oh, can you walk us through what the process actually looks like on the site?
Sure. First, you'll be asked whether you have ever signed a durable power of attorney or medical power of attorney. If you answer no, the tool will stop you because the interview is for people who have already created one of those documents.
Okay, so click yes, right?
Well, if you have created the documents, then yes, click yes, and you'll enter your name and then choose which form or forms you want to revoke. The durable power of attorney for finances, the medical power of attorney for healthcare decisions, or both.
Okay, so what's next?
Well, then you enter your agent's name, the person you originally named to act on your behalf. The form also asks whether you named an alternate agent, and if you did, you'll enter their name as well.
So is that it for the information you're going to need?
That's it. You complete the same process for each document you're revoking. It walks you step by step. Then you review the form, check for spelling and formatting carefully, and print it out.
Yeah, I like the fact that you can do it online and everything's typed. Reading handwriting sometimes, like as a teacher, it's so hard to do. So then what do? We sign it?
Yes, if you use the eFileTexas revocation form, you will sign it in front of a notary. Getting it notarized is a strong best practice because it creates a clean paper trail that institutions tend to take seriously.
Okay, we've signed it. We're finished, right?
Well, that's where many people stop short, and it's one of the most important parts. Revoking only protects you if the people involved know about it, so you need to deliver copies and update records.
Okay. So who needs to receive a copy?
Well, for the statutory durable power of attorney, give a copy to your former agent and to any financial institution or business where your agent acted on your behalf. For example, banks, investment accounts, lenders, landlords, anyone who might still rely on that old authority, and anyone that any institution you actually gave a copy to. Remember, if you had a list that you were writing down who you gave your paperwork to, refer to that list.
I was just thinking it'd probably be a good decision, I would think, to have a conversation with the person or people you've named as an agent, explaining why you're changing, just so you can maintain some kind of relationship with them. What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's a great idea. But if you maybe don't know how to have that conversation or you're scared, you don't have to tell them that you're taking them off.
I guess it just depends on the situation you're
Right.
in with your relationship.
Exactly.
Okay. How about that medical power of attorney?
Same idea. You give a copy to your former agent and to your doctor or healthcare providers where it could be on file. Refer to your list. Texas Law Help explains that a medical power of attorney can be revoked by notifying your agent or your doctor or residential care provider in person or in writing. But I think using a written revocation form helps make that update clear across the board.
So, as we talked about in our last episode, documenting who has a copy of the original document really matters here. So you can circle back to give them the updated version.
It really does matter. Keep your signed revocation in a safe place and keep a list of who received copies and when. If you update documents again down the road, you will know exactly who needs the new version.
Yeah, that's so important, I think. So before someone goes through this whole process, is there anything they should be thinking about beforehand?
Yes. So before you revoke, you want to consider who you would want in that role next. Because once the revocation is effective and communicated, you may no longer have anyone authorized to act on your behalf.
Yeah. Having a gap in support could really matter if something happens to you during that gap and no one has authority to help you.
Exactly. And handling both at the same time is important so you're not left without help. We covered how to complete all these documents in the earlier episodes of the series.
Okay. One thing worth noting while we're here is revoking a power of attorney is separate from revoking a HIPAA authorization.
Yes, a HIPAA authorization is what gives someone permission to access your medical information. A medical power of attorney gives someone the authority to make medical decisions for you. They are two different documents, and if you want to revoke both, you handle each one separately. If you are revoking a HIPAA authorization, the Health and Human Services site explains that revocation must be in writing, and it is not effective until the healthcare provider or plan receives it.
Yeah, that makes sense. They can't read your mind about who's getting you've given
Mhm.
authorization to until they receive it. And as I remember, we covered the HIPAA authorization in episode 61. We'll link that episode in the show notes, and we'll also link the information from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services at hhs.gov if you want to read more about the HIPAA revocation. So let's come back to our essential question. If you signed a medical power of attorney or a statutory durable power of attorney and you want to revoke it, what steps help you make sure your revocation is clear and actually honored?
Well, you revoke it, and then you make sure the right people know about it, and institutions. So TexasLawHelp.org explains that for a medical power of attorney, revocation can be done by notifying your agent or your doctor or care provider in person or in writing, or by signing a new medical power of attorney. For financial powers of attorney, Texas Law Help recommends a clear paper trail, which is why we like the eFileTexas guided revocation form. It is set up to be notarized, and notarizing it can help institutions take it seriously. Then you'll make sure your former agent or agents are aware, and any institutions or providers that relied on the old document receive the revocation. Keep your signed copy for yourself and document who received copies and when. If you name a new agent, document who received those new forms as well.
Yeah, as we were going through this, I was thinking, because in another episode we talked about forms not being uploaded, maybe circling back the next time you go to your doctor or something like that, say, hey, can we check who you have on file for me and see if they actually made the change for you?
Definitely. Do that.
Yeah.
Follow up.
Follow up, because we want to make sure you have this right. I have this right for you, or you have this right for me.
Exactly.
Vice versa or whatever. So if you find this helpful, hit that subscribe button on YouTube and follow Thoughtful Planning on your favorite podcast platform. We're on Apple, Spotify, iHeart, Pandora, and Amazon Music.
And if you have any questions, you can reach us at info@legacytoolkit.com. Remember, every chapter you write today shapes your legacy tomorrow. Thank you for joining us at Thoughtful Planning.